Remember that you don't have to do everything at one time, right? So you can even break up your life. And this is what people who are multi-potentialites or scanners, as some people call them. So people who have a lot of different interests and like learning more than anything else or starting things new. You can break your life up and you can say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to focus on this for the next 3 years. Then I'm going to focus on this for the next 3 years. Then I'm going to focus on this for the next 3 years.
Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. If you are an INFJ or in a relationship with an INFJ or related to an INFJ in any way, and you want to figure out how they operate, what makes them tick, and how to communicate with them better, this is the show for you. It's called The Quiet Ones. This is a show that deconstructs INFJs, what they are, how they think, how they feel, how they operate, and how they relate to people with other personality types. Whether you have just found out that you're an INFJ or have known for a number of years, there is something for everyone. You will learn more about your personality type so that you understand who you are and understand how you operate in the workplace, in relationships, in your family, and with friends. I want you to walk away from every episode feeling like you have a place of belonging, feeling like you are no longer alone, feeling like you have a place to be heard and seen and understood as you really are. This is a place to connect with other INFJs, to learn and grow and really thrive. I want to give you inspiration and real-life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to live your best life every single day. Though INFJs are very rare, you are not alone in this world. You are not the only one who thinks the way that you do and feels the way that you do. Hear from real INFJs just like you. Hi there, I'm Sarah Kuhn. Welcome to another episode of The Quiet Ones. I'm so excited that you're here today. We have an amazing episode and I really can't wait to get to the interview, but we have just a couple of things to talk about before that. I wanted to make sure that you know about the membership community that I have. It's called INFJ Community. It is exclusive just for INFJs, and it's really a wonderful place for us to come and connect and really enjoy each other's company and learn about each other. It's really an amazing place. If you haven't checked it out, please come and check it out. You can find it at infjcommunity.com. We are doing live video podcasts every single week on Sunday evening at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm on there every single week, and I'm scheduling guests to be on with me as well. And the great thing about it is that since it's live, you can join in the conversation too. You don't have to be on video, but you can ask questions through the chat feature, and that way you can ask all the questions that you'd like to hear answered by so many different people that are going to be on there. I have some life coaches, relationship coaches, a self-love coach, just a little bit of everybody. And most of them are INFJs or INFPs or ENFJs. They're all very close to our personality type, and everything that they have to say is relevant to INFJs. So I hope that you'll come over and check it out. When you sign up, you get a 1-week free trial. But I have another way for you to get a 3-month trial if you're interested in that. And that is if you pre-order my book. My book is called the INFJ User Guide. And when you pre-order my book, which you can do now, there is a link in the show notes for it. One of the bonuses is a 3-month free trial to the INFJ community. So definitely check that out. It's a great deal. And there's so many other bonuses that you get with my book. It'll be out in less than a month, really in just a couple of weeks. Honestly, I can't believe it's gotten here so fast. Some of the other bonuses that you get when you pre-order it is there are 3 different masterclasses. So one of them is how to find your purpose. One of them is how to turn your blog into a profitable business. And one of them is how to start a podcast. So if you're interested in any of those topics, each one of those masterclasses are usually over $200. So you're talking about over $600 in bonuses. That's the value of what they are. So you also are going to get a free ebook that's called What to Do When You're INFJ. And it has lots of different scenarios of things that come up for INFJs. Like when you feel lost of not having a purpose, when you're miserable at work, when you can't find any friends, all different kinds of things. What's the best thing to do? So make sure that you check it out. Like I said, the link is in the show notes. You can also find the link on my website, which is infjwoman.com. And the masterclasses are starting this weekend. So make sure that if you're interested, that you go ahead and pre-order the book, and make sure that you get in on those. They won't be available for too long. One more thing that I wanted to tell you about. So many people have been asking me about my Instagram account. My INFJ Woman Instagram account is up to 49,000 followers. I can't believe it, honestly. It's really completely amazing. If you don't follow me there, make sure that you go follow me. It's at INFJ Woman. But a lot of people ask me about how I got that many followers. They ask me about how to start a blog, how to set up an email system, how to find your ideal client, or a lot of people call that your avatar. A lot of people just have questions about marketing and the technical aspects of like social media and email marketing and all those different things. And I'm actually going to be a guest on a couple of other podcasts, and I'll make sure that I share those with you so that you can listen to them. But it seems like a lot of what people want to talk about is marketing. So I set up a new website. It's Sarah Kuhn, which is SarahKuhn.co, so .co. You can go over there and check it out. It's basically a new blog that I'm doing that is all about marketing, all about social media, email marketing. I'm going to do a lot about Instagram and Pinterest, and blogging, how to make money, because of course that's one of the big questions. I'm putting together some income reports right now so that you can actually see how much money I make, because I want you to know that it is possible that you can make quite a bit of money from a blog and a podcast and social media these days, and there are so many different ways that you can make money from it. I'm offering some services as well. I have a little bit of space to take on a few more clients. So if you are interested in coaching, or if you're interested in getting something like that set up, make sure that you go over and check it out. Look under the Work with Sarah tab, and you'll see what kind of services that I offer. If you don't see what you're looking for, make sure that you reach out to me, because I definitely do custom packages as well. I'm sure that we can work something out, whatever it is that you're looking for or that you need advice on. So yeah, I'm excited about that. It is new, so I'm still working on getting all of the content up there, but I'm really excited about it. I love talking about marketing. I have worked in digital marketing for about 10 years now, and it's one of my favorite things, honestly. And I think that's why this business works so well for me, because I already know how to do so much of the marketing aspect, and I love that. I love social media. I love graphic design. I love websites. I have 4 websites now. So, and I just recently, in the last month, upgraded to a new email system. And I love this new email system because it does so much more. It's automated for pretty much everything. And it's really completely awesome. And it's been a learning curve, but it's so much fun for me to learn that kind of stuff. And I'm excited to share that with you. So if you're interested, please make sure that you go check it out. And I have a new Instagram account too that is by Sarah Kuhn. So if you're interested in marketing, make sure that you go check that out, and I'll put a link for it in the show notes as well. I'm not going anywhere though. Nothing is changing with INFJ Woman. I'm still running my blog. I'm still doing the podcast weekly. All of that is going to continue. In fact, I actually announced this week that it's growing some more. I'm going to do events that they're kind of connected to the INFJ community. So I mentioned that I'm doing live videos in the INFJ community. and I'm calling them a live podcast, actually, that I call Connect Live. I love the word connect because I think that that's the biggest thing that we as INFJs want, right? We want connection. We want understanding. We want people that we can make friends with and that really get us. And so I really want to take this concept of connecting with each other and turn it into events. So the first part of the events is Connect Live, which is a podcast. That's the live videos that I'm doing inside of the community every single week. There's also going to be a Connect online retreat, which is, it's gonna be like a weekend with a lot of different videos, speakers, guest speakers. I'll be doing some of the speaking, and then there'll be like question and answer type of things too. There are discounts for anybody who's already inside of the community before we do the launch. And anybody who's a part of the community will also get early access to the launch as well. And that goes for any of these remaining events. So there's the Connect Live online retreat, and it's going to be, I plan on doing quite a few of these actually. Hopefully the first one goes really well so that it works out well. But I was thinking that we could do one like on health and wellness, one on business, one on maybe having a growth mindset, anything really that pertains to us. Maybe one, the whole weekend is about finding your purpose and different ways that connect to that. I've made so many friends with different life coaches and business coaches, and I just have so many connections now, and I really want to connect you guys with these people as well, because I know that there's a lot that we can learn from them and, you know, from each other as well. So that's the online part of it. Everybody in the whole entire world can be involved in that. There's no limit on it. And like I said, if you're part of the INFJ community, then you'll get early access to the tickets, and you'll also get discounts. But the podcast is free. The live podcast is a part of being in the community though. So then the next part is the in-person events. And I know right now is like the worst time in the whole entire world to be talking about in-person events. Here in Boston, we're very close to being quarantined, honestly, because of this whole coronavirus thing. I still have a full-time job, and this week I'm working from home, which I'm very blessed and happy to be able to do. The less that we can limit our exposure to other people and stop the spread of the virus as quickly as we can, I'm happy to participate in any of that. I just hope that it's over soon. I really think that it's important to have something to look forward to after all of this. And that's why I wanted to bring up the events, honestly, because I think that it's really important for us to connect. And it's extremely important for us to connect in person as soon as it's safe. That's why I'm going to put a link to all of the information about these events in the show notes. A lot of them say more information is coming soon. The time is to be determined. And that's based on when everyone is safe and when it's okay for us to get together again. So there are a couple different kinds of events. The first one is Connect Live, and then it will have a city name after it. So the first in-person event will be in Boston because I'm in Boston. And I really want to make sure that my concept works. So it'll be Connect Live Boston. And my plan is to have either coffee or cocktails and some appetizers, and then have a speaker and have some kind of event. And when I was writing out the description of it, my description said like non-tacky engagement activity. And I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm kind of just picturing a room full of introverts who are kind of a little bit anxious to be there and don't really know how to start a conversation, because that's me. That's what I look like when I go to these types of events. I want to be there and I want to connect, especially with other INFJs, but I don't know how to get started. So I thought if we had some kind of genuine engagement activity, that it would be really nice for us to be able to start conversations and figure out how to talk to each other and to just get going. And then I imagine there being some kind of activity like either painting or writing or candle making or something like that, that's fun, where you have something to take home with you as well. So it's going to be a really fun event. I'm thinking just a couple of hours, you know, either on a weekend afternoon or in the evening. So yeah, I hope that if you're around Boston that you will come and join us. I really, really am excited about it, and I know it's going to be something that you're going to absolutely want to be a part of. The ticket prices for that, I'm hoping to keep them around $50 a piece. And like I said, there's a lot that's going into it. So I really hope that you'll consider coming, honestly. And then the last event that you'll see on the page is called Connect Live Retreat. And I just have this picture in my head. It's an idea right now of 10 or 15 of us INFJs sitting on a beach somewhere or in an open air resort with the ocean very close to us, and talking about things that matter to us the most, talking about self-love and purpose and the meaning of life, connecting over our experiences and learning more about ourselves and how we can improve our lives. I'm imagining that it's a 3 or 4 day event, and that we do things to balance our energy and to really come back to ourselves. And I'm hoping that there will be some kind of yoga classes and or meditation, just us spending a lot of time together in a really gorgeous place and making friends, making lifelong friends, and just being around people who really understand us. Since I started doing this podcast, I have been talking to so many INFJs and so many people who are close to our personality. It's amazing to me what an energizing experience it is to get to know people who understand. They just get you from the beginning. And it's amazing to me how similar we are in so many different aspects of our lives. I never understood what it felt like to be energized by talking to people. But I feel like when we're connecting with the right kinds of people, when they are INFJs who understand us, then it is incredibly energizing, because you don't end up talking about the weather or the grocery store or a baseball game or, you know, hair and clothes and makeup. You don't talk about those things. I started a conversation with an INFJ who I had just met, and the first thing that she asked me was about self-love. It was like basically, hey, how are you? And then she launched into a question about self-love, and we sat there for an hour talking about some of the deepest, darkest things in both of our families that we probably don't talk to really anyone about, honestly. It was just such an amazing and energizing experience, and it's so completely wonderful to have somebody who just gets it right from the start. They just understand. You don't have to explain anything to them. And you can tell them some of those things that, you know, like, for instance, I mentioned to one of my INFJ friends, I moved away from Charlotte because I felt like my time there was up. It was a feeling. That was it. That was the whole reason. And she was like, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And I was kind of shocked. I'm like, really? Nobody gets it. I try to tell people and they're like, what? Why? You moved halfway across the country because of a feeling? But she totally got it. And that's the whole reason that I moved to Boston too. It was like, well, you know, I just kind of felt like it was the right place. I'd never been there before I decided to move here, actually. But it felt like the right thing to do. And she was like, yeah, I totally get it. I make those kind of decisions all the time. So yeah, I've had this amazing experience, and I want you guys to have the same experience as well. I'm telling you, it is life-changing. It's so completely amazing to meet those people who get to know you, who just understand you from the beginning. And meeting them in person takes it to a whole other level. There are several INFJs in Boston. that I've gotten to know, that I've become friends with. And just this past weekend, actually, I went and had coffee with one of my friends who's an INFJ, and we sat there and talked for 4 hours. And we're in this coffee shop, and we're kind of looking around going, wow, why is it so loud in here all of a sudden? And I looked at my phone and I'm like, oh, well, because we've been sitting here for 4 hours and now it's lunchtime. And it was breakfast time when we started. So that's why I want to put together these events, because I want you guys to have the same experience. It's 1,000 times better than connecting with people over social media. So yes, I hope that you will consider coming. Make sure that you go check out the event information. It is on the INFJ Community website, which is infjcommunity.com. And you can find the link for it in the show notes. Okay, so let's get to our guest. Our guest today is June Morrow. She's a business coach who helps people with unfulfilling day jobs who dream of making a bigger impact on the world and start service-based side hustles and take them full time. She is completely amazing. She has all kinds of wonderful information, and I really hope that you enjoy the interview. I do want to let you know that we had a couple of issues recording the interview because her Wi-Fi was a little bit slow, and so it's a little bit glitchy, especially if you're watching the video. Just please bear with it because it's amazing information that she talks about, and it will get better about halfway through. And just as a reminder, you can watch the video interview on YouTube at youtube.com/thequietonespodcast. Tell me, how did you find out your personality type?
I think I was probably like 25 and I found a Myers-Briggs book that had all the different personality types probably. Oh, I think I was working in a bookstore at the time actually. So I was working in a bookstore and I found this book and I was like, what is this? And I love personality tests. So I took it and I was like, oh, okay, isn't it interesting? And then I thought, aren't I special? Because there's not many people who have INFJ. And then I've taken it again a number of times throughout the years. And I find my I, I'm kind of like borderline I and E, right? So sometimes I'm like, 48% I, 52 E. Sometimes I'm like 48% E, 50, but it's always kind of like around the border. Yeah. And a couple of years ago, we were doing at work, I used to work full time for a government, and they had our team do them. So we each did them. So I think that was the last time that I did it. Yeah. And then I work with somebody who's like a Myers-Briggs consultant. So one of my clients is somebody who's interested in building a business as a Myers-Briggs consultant. So yeah.
Nice. So was there any way that it changed your life, or how did it have any kind of impact on you?
I think it helped me understand myself better, because I think for a lot of people, when they do the Myers-Briggs indicator, they're like, oh, that's me. And for a long time, I was trying to figure out what career direction I should go in, what's my calling, what am I here to do? And so it kind of helped me kind of narrow that down a little bit. Like I think really though, it's helped me with self-awareness to know what my strengths are and also to know areas where I could grow.
Yes, it does so much of that, honestly. It's nice just to have that awareness and to say, hey, I thought this was wrong with me, but actually it's not wrong. That's just how I am. It's like this big awakening type of thing.
Totally.
So how did you get to be a business coach?
So when I was working full time for the man, as I call the government, when I was working for the man, I knew about, maybe 6 years into that career, this wasn't what I wanted to do. And I'd always been interested in personal development and transformation and all those things. So I thought, oh, maybe I want to be a coach. So I took some coaching courses, I got certified, and then I realized you need to specialize in something. And so at that time, this is a long convoluted tale, just letting you know. At that time, I was recently divorced, and I'd made it my mission to get my dating game on. So in 1 year, I went on 120 dates, and I learned a lot, and I tested all the stuff that all the experts say. So I went on all these dates, and I actually got really good at dating. And people would say like, oh, you like dating? Like you're in your 40s and you like dating? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, no, it's fun. And they're like, teach me. So I became a dating coach. So I did that part-time. while I was still working full time. I did that for about 2 years. And then I realized it wasn't quite what I was after, because the people that I worked with, they'd always be like, for me, I'd always be like, well, the way to attract people into your life is to do more of what lights you up. And what lights you up? And then they'd be like, I don't know what lights me up. And so then I was like, okay, you need to find out what lights you up. So I morphed from being a dating coach into somebody who became more of a callings coach. So helping people figure out who they are, what they're drawn to. And then I did that for about 2 years. And then I started getting more and more people coming to me and saying, like, how did you build a business as a coach? How did you do this part-time when you have a full-time job? Because that's really challenging, as you know. And how do you balance all of that? And how do you find clients? And how do I start? And how do I do X, Y, and Z? How do I market myself? And so that transitioned into business coaching, because I realized that's really where the market need was for me. That's what people were coming to me for. And that's what I could help them with really, really clearly, because I had already done it, right? And I realized too that when you're working full time and you have a side hustle, it's a different thing than when you're doing your business full time. So I decided to specialize in people who have full-time jobs and want to be coaches or consultants, or do healing or kind of like service-based side hustles, so that they can learn how to monetize those and then take those full-time. So that's where I am today.
I love that you did several different things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I know that a lot of people, myself included, think that we have this like perfectionism thing going on, where it's like, okay, I am not going to waste any time. I'm going to decide what I want to do and then do exactly that. And I did that when I was in college. And it took me 10 years to finish a 4-year degree because I couldn't figure out what I was doing. And then I was so scared to make a mistake that I didn't want to make any mistakes. And I feel like I've done that so many times. And it's taken me such a long time to realize that the first thing that you do doesn't have to be the last thing that you do.
No. And that's such a myth. It's this myth that, you go to school and it's like, I call it like, it's like the straight line, right? So you go to school and you specialize in something, and then you get a career, and then you work and you get senior in that career, and you never change. And that's not true. And in fact, the world we live in today, the average person, like a millennial or somebody who's a Gen Z or a Gen Z, if you're American, the average person is going to have at least 8 different careers, not jobs, careers in their life. So this idea, I think we all need to shed this idea that you only do one thing, or that if you do something and it's not the right thing for you, then you failed. Or if it was right for you and then it changes, that you somehow failed. You haven't. You're just growing. You're exploring. You're being who you are, right? Because we change.
Yeah, for sure. And that whole idea that you're going to work in one job at one company for your whole career, I feel like it's really antiquated. Like, that's not how it works anymore. I've had so many jobs, and not that I promote people having a lot of jobs, because it's really hard. But I probably have worked in 8 different careers at this point, and I'm only 34, going to be 35 this year. But yeah, I mean, it's a whole different world. And one of the biggest things too for me, which is kind of off topic, but I feel like it's a big thing, is that when my parents are looking at me saying, you need to get a job, or you need to get a different job, and they have this whole different mentality around how you get a job. And then I started this blog and this podcast. So my parents tell me, like, how do you make money off of that thing? They don't understand how that works.
Yeah, I have the exact same thing with my parents, my older sister. They're like, they don't get it. They don't understand, because it's a different world, right?
Yeah.
Online is a different world that they've never experienced. They don't understand that, rather than go to a store or set up an office where people come in and see you, it's actually like people get to know you first online, and they learn how to know, like, and trust you, right? And it's so different. So yeah, it's kind of, I think we have to be sympathetic to people who are of that kind of that's what worked for them. So that, it's going to take them a bit longer to understand. And obviously, everybody just wants what's best for you, right? They just want you to be secure and happy, and yeah.
I feel like it's especially important for INFJs to understand that business is different now, and that you can have a career in a non-traditional field, because a lot of us are creative. We like to write or draw, or I mean, whatever it is. There's so many different ways that we express our feelings that and our emotions, you know, that you wouldn't really think of, like, how do you make money from a blog, that kind of thing. So when you're first getting started, one of the biggest things is, where do I start? Like, what do I even do? One of my good friends has like 12 different ideas of what she can do, right? And she's like, well, I want to write, but I kind of want to draw. And I really think that I would be a good life coach. And I'm really good at holding people accountable. And so her biggest problem is that she can't figure out where to even start. And I know that's a really broad question. So I'm leaning on you here. Where do you even start?
Okay, so this is where you start. You start with listing everything that you're interested in, right? So step one is put everything down that you're interested in. Step two is to think about 10 years from now. Not tomorrow, but 10 years from now. And if you're trying to figure out, like, what do I want to do with the majority of my time, right? So what sort of business do I want to start, or what career do I want to get into, or what do I want to pursue? Ask yourself, with each of those things that you've listed, ask yourself, where, if it's 10 years from now, how do I feel about this, right? About each of them. And then ask yourself, how would I feel if I made this my choice? Like, if I'm doing it full time in 10 years, how would I feel if I'm doing it full time in 10 months from now? How would that feel? And then how would I feel if I'm doing it full time in 10 days? Now, some of them might be things that you want to do, you know, you're like, but I want to do this now, and I want to do this now, and I want to do this now. And so another perspective is to remember that you don't have to do everything at one time, right? So you can even break up your life. And this is what people who are multi-potentialites, or scanners, as some people call them. So people who have a lot of different interests and like learning more than anything else, or starting things new. You can break your life up and you can say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to focus on this for the next 3 years. Then I'm going to focus on this for the next 3 years. Then I'm going to focus on this for the next 3 years. So that's another way you can do it, is kind of think about, like, doing things chronologically if there are things that require a lot. Or you can always just pick one, make that your main focus, and then just do a little something on the side as you need it.
For sure. I never thought about doing something for just a little while and then, like, having a deadline or a time frame that you were going to do that. I guess I've kind of thought about business that way, because for me, I never wanted to work. I never wanted to go to school. I wanted to be a mom. And I'm like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. That's what I'm going to do. And my parents are like, what if that doesn't work out? Like, maybe you should go to college, like, just in case. And then here I am, almost 35 years old, and it never worked out. So it was a good thing, right? Good thing I did that just in case. So what if you're really, really creative and you like to write, you like to draw, or you like to counsel people, whatever it is that you want to go after, but you know nothing about websites and you know nothing about marketing or email lists? How do you work around all of that? Because it feels like a big learning curve.
I think it depends what you want to do, right? So if you want to, like, are you talking about being creative and you want to monetize?
Yeah, like,
so the question, if you're,
when you first get started, and let's just say that somebody in my audience is a writer and they're like, I really want to write, but I know nothing about websites. So, you know, how do you balance writing and doing what you love, but then also learning how to build a website, or, you know, how to build an email list?
Right. Okay. So what you do is you prioritize the thing you love. So if you love writing, make sure that if you only have, like, say you have 10 hours in a week, right? And you love writing, and you also want to start a blog because you want people to start finding you. So you make sure that you're spending like 5 hours of that time writing, so that you're doing what you love, so you're not getting bogged down in the details. And then you either hire someone to do your website, or you find a really easy, like, website to set up, like find like something that's super, ask your friends, like what was the most easiest website? You do it as simple as possible, right? And then you use your skills. Like if you love writing, you use your skills to create things that'll bring people to your website. So you might guest blog, for example. So you're still writing, but you're guest blogging and you're, for larger websites that have bigger followings. And then you create something using writing as a freebie to get people to come to your website. But you're always using that thing that you love doing. So it's the same thing. If you love to draw, you're a visual person, right? You're probably not going to be, you're going to want to be all over Instagram because that's very visual, right? So you're creating stuff and drawing stuff and putting it out there on Instagram, right? And going to sites where there's other artists or other people who know about how to create, how to monetize an art business and getting people's ideas, but at the same time, you're doing your art, you're doing that thing that you love. So it's really important that you are not getting bogged down too much in the beginning on the technical details of running a business, and that you're getting help and support from people who've done it, and that you're finding the simplest way possible to deliver what you're doing. Because a lot of people think you need a big mailing list, but you don't, right? You just need people who notice what you're doing and relate to it and say, oh, this is great. And then you work with them, right? Or they buy your product and they love it and they tell other people. And that's how it grows.
Yeah.
But a lot of people get bogged down at the beginning and they think, I need a mailing list. I don't have 10,000 people. However am I going to make money, right? But it's not about a mailing list. It's about connection. It's about like one-on-one relationships, right? Or it's about like one-on-one conversations. It's about, you know, people getting to know you, but you doing it in the beginning, if you're doing it part-time, doing it organically.
I love what you said too about not needing 10,000 people. There's so many people who have huge businesses who make plenty of money and they don't have 10,000 people on their email list. But one of the things that I was concerned about when I started my business is, what do I need to start? And for me, because I've worked in digital marketing for 10 years, I was like, okay, I need Instagram, I need Facebook, I need Twitter, I need YouTube, I need a really nice website, I need an email list, and that's an email list provider, and then, you know, I need a payment provider, and before you know it, I had so many subscriptions to all of these things. And I actually sat down and calculated, and I'm like, I'm paying $250 a month in $20 and $30 subscriptions for, you know, all these like scheduling platforms and emails and all these different things. Do you really need all of that to get started? Because it is very overwhelming and it feels like a lot.
So this is what I recommend for people who are starting a business and they have a full-time job and they're trying to do it part-time, is pick one social media platform, just one. You don't have to be on all of them. You can do like minimal on the rest of them, but just pick the one that reflects two things. So one, where is your ideal customer most likely to be, right? And that's going to depend on what you're selling. So if you're selling, you know, say you're a photographer, chances are you're going to want to showcase yourself on Instagram because it's very visual, right? If you're a community builder, you might want to find people on Facebook and start a Facebook group. If you are somebody who's comfortable on video or you're demoing something, right? If you are selling something that aligns with a step-by-step or something that you can show on video or bring people through, then use YouTube. And just pick one platform and get really, really good at it, right? Like, don't try and do all the things because you're going to overwhelm yourself and you don't need to. So long as you're finding the people and the people are finding you on that platform, that's good enough for the time being. When you get really good on one platform and you've got it all kind of automated and it's very clear what you're doing and you know what you're doing, then you can start branching out. But just do one thing at a time because otherwise it's going to be overwhelming. You know, and something you can do is you can always like repurpose your content for other platforms. So even though you're focusing, say you're focusing just on Facebook or just on Instagram, you know, if you're just doing Instagram, you can always, you know, there's that thing where you can post it on Facebook from Instagram. So you can always just do like a repost. Or if you're just on LinkedIn, for example, you can retweet. You can tweet your LinkedIn posts. So do minimal and focus on just one thing It's going to make it super easy, and it's going to teach you the things that you need to do to start gathering a following. Because what's most important is consistency, right? It's not that you're everywhere, it's that you're consistent in one place, that people will start to see you and show up and get to know you.
Yeah. You said to pick the platform where your ideal customer is most likely to be. What if you don't know who your ideal customer is? How do you figure that out?
Okay, so there's you figure it out really by taking action and working with people, depending who you are, right? But you kind of figure it out by putting your thing out there and seeing who responds. And then you also figure it out by thinking, who in my mind, if anybody could, and I'll talk about, for example, for something like coaching, for example, because that's kind of the world I know. I think it's a little different if you're selling earrings, right? On Etsy, it's a slightly different thing. But there is still this idea of like, who is your ideal target market? Who are you talking to? So you think about, if anybody in the world, if I could help anybody in the world, what would they look like? Not physically look like, but like, how old would they be? What are they feeling inside? What change do they desperately need? What is their day like? What keeps them up at night, right? So you ask all these questions like, where are they feeling lost? Where do they really need the transformation? If it's coaching, for example, where do they hang out? And often if you're doing a service-based thing like coaching, consulting, healing, that sort of thing, your ideal customer is really who you were a couple steps back before you figured out the thing that changed your life. So sometimes it's really easy to just say like, okay, who was I? Because often we want to help the person who is coming up behind us with what we know. If you're doing something like a physical good, it's going to be slightly different, but it still helps to have like that avatar, like who, if I could sell this to anybody and have it on anybody, who would it be, right?
So once you figure out who your ideal customer is, the next step for you is really to start putting yourself out there. And that is one of the most difficult things, honestly. It was the hardest thing for me, and it's still hard sometimes because what I want to do is help people with the things that touch me the most, but those are the hardest things to talk about. And then you have to be on video, or if you're not on video, sometimes it's just like writing a blog post. It's like, I want to write about the things that touch me the most, but those are the hardest to put out there. So how do you get over that fear of putting yourself out there and of thinking about, what if my friends read this? What if my mom reads it,
And your mom might read it. And then you have to explain it to her and be like, no, it's okay, Mom, I'm okay. Yeah. And it's really, you can test the waters. So you don't have to blurt your whole life story at once, right? So you're always thinking about, what am I writing and how is it helping people? So it helps if you want to write about, if you're writing or sharing a story, a personal story, if you're doing content marketing, you want it to be something that you've already solved. So you're not putting yourself out there while you're still raw, right? You're kind of showing, this is where I felt bad, and this is where things were hard for me, and this is what helped, right? And every now and then you can ask people too for help. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's kind of like, you want to make sure that you're providing something of value by showing people a path, right? But if you're nervous, a lot of people are nervous about sharing their personal, and you don't have to share anything you're not comfortable with. That's number one, right? One person's personal is like, I went for a pap smear, and another person's personal is like, I saw a dog being walked today, right? So find your level of personal, and don't try and be who you're not, right? If you're just comfortable saying like, I was looking at the weather and the weather today reminded me of this, and it's like a nice light analogy about whatever it is you do, that's cool. You don't have to get into your deep stories. But if you're a person who is like, okay doing that, then do that. Or if you're not sure where your boundaries are, do light, easy posts and see what reaction you get, and then just little by little become more and more vulnerable, right? But you don't have to jump in like, here's the worst day of my life, and right? Like, people don't want, if people aren't used to knowing that much about you, you have to kind of warm them up too. So, it's, people just want to know you, and they want to know you at the level that you're comfortable with. Nobody wants you to be who you're not. So that's what I would say about that.
So the biggest question that I get from everybody, everybody who's interested in starting a business, everybody who just wants to hear about my business, how do you make money? How do you make money from a blog? How do you make money from a podcast? How does that work?
Right. So you have to offer something beyond the podcast and the blog. Because unless your blog is a mega blog or your podcast is a mega podcast, you probably won't be selling advertising on it. And if you are, it's not at the level where you're going to make a living, right? You can get to that point, but it's going to take time. And by time, I mean often years, right? So what you need to do is you need to offer something beyond that. So it might be a course. It might be an opportunity to work with you one-on-one. It might be a retreat. It might be showing people how you did what you're doing. So Sarah, like a good thing for you, maybe not right now because I know you just launched your community, but maybe a year from now is showing people how to launch a community, a profitable community, right? So it's, you take people through the journey that you've taken, that you're on. But you have to recognize with a blog and a podcast, like it's going to take you a little while before you can monetize it. So most people, not everyone, there are some people who like right away, or they find, you know, sponsors. That's another way you can do it, is if you're affiliated with, if you're in a specific area, you know, you can find a sponsor. So I don't know, just off the top of my head, like if you blog about foot mechanics, this is really bizarre, you could find like a high-end running shoe, right? That might work with you. I have no idea where that came from. But that's one way you can do it, right? Or on the back end, you can offer coaching, you can offer one-on-one sessions. Yeah, but it's you have to create valuable content, and then people will come to know you, they'll come to like you. You can offer really simple things. You can offer like, you can create little workbooks, right? About like a specific problem that your blog addresses, and then sell those workbooks. You're not going to make $1 million at the beginning, but it'll get you used to selling things and offering. Yeah.
The big thing too, honestly, is to make sure that your audience is acclimated to the fact that you are selling things right away.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be pushy about it when you're selling things, but I feel like at least in the beginning, you should have at least 1 or 2 things that you're offering right away, because otherwise, once you do start to sell things, there's going to be a problem with the transition of everything should be free, but no, actually it's not. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to also knowing who your audience is. And there's a difference between like a hobby blog and a blog that is strategic to create income. And if you're doing a strategic blog, you want to be really clear about who you want to be speaking to. So you really want to kind of know who your target market is. So it's not just like me writing about my life. It's about me writing about my life in a way that helps women who recently turned 30 and are feeling like they're not where they're supposed to be in their career, right? Or me writing about my life in a way that helps people who recently lost their dogs or whatever, so that it's really clear like who you're helping. Because once you know exactly who it is you're helping and what you're helping them with, you're creating content that solves their problem. And then you can start getting into conversations and finding out, okay, so what, you know, if I did this, kind of doing some market research, asking your readers, if I did this, would this be helpful to you? Or what sort of support are you looking for? Or what do you find that other places you go to for support in this problem are missing? So it really gets into, it's thinking beyond. And it's hard because I know we're kind of like, oh, but I just love writing just for myself, or I just love doing videos just for myself, or I love doing this just for myself. But it's you're still doing that, but it's finding a way that it meets a market need. So you have to kind of think about what is that need that people need, and how can I solve that? How can I serve?
At what stage in the process do you think about hiring a business coach? Do you do that before you've even gotten started, or do you have to have a little bit of a following? How does that work?
I think different business coaches speak to different people at different parts of the process, right? So there are, like, if you're like, yeah, I want to start a business, but I've got a bunch of different ideas, then you start with a coach like myself who helps people who are just starting out, who are like, okay, I'm not sure which one to focus on, and I really need to run it by some people. But then there's coaches, like if you are already making like $3,000 a month and you're like, I want to scale this, and you kind of know all the systems, then there's like momentum coaches that can help you. So it depends on what stage you're at the journey. And I'm just going to say something that happens when you're starting out, and it certainly happened to me, and it still happens. Like it still happens, I'll be honest, is there are so many coaches out there, and the social media algorithms are so good that they know exactly what you've been looking at. And you get fed advertisements, right? For like, oh, if your list isn't big enough, something's wrong with you, or you have to get a website, or you need SEO, or, you know, or this is my one secret for earning $10,000 a month, right? And it's really easy to get, to do the wrong things when you're first starting out. And when you're starting out, all you need is a system to find clients and money. And you need to know who your clients are. So you need clarity on who your clients are. You need a system to find those clients, and you need a way to bring in money. And to do that on a part-time basis while you're still working full-time and you're validating what your idea is, you don't necessarily need to spend $5,000, right? Or $10,000. And sometimes the coaches who are selling like the big programs with a lot of bells and whistles is actually overwhelming. So you just need the basics at this point. You just need to validate. And then once you validate it, once you're like, yeah, I've got a steady stream of clients coming in, or I'm selling my product consistently, I'm making, you know, a couple, like $2,000 a month extra, $500 to $2,000 a month extra. I know what I'm doing. I know who my target market is. I know how to find them at the basic. Then you start expanding. You start thinking, okay, how else can I do this? What else can I do? But you do it like really systematically. So you're going to have different coaches at different times. That's what I would suggest, because I know that there's a lot of programs out there and it can be overwhelming. And some of the programs are for coaches who have like been doing it for a while, and some are for new, and you got to find the one that's right for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I would also add a little bit to that you should really get to know the coach that you are thinking about hiring before you hire them. And I know that a lot of times with coaches, and I might mess you up here by saying this, and I apologize. A lot of coaches are like, okay, let's have a 1-hour session and then sign my contract. And I'm like, okay. I actually did that. And I agreed to pay somebody about $6,000. And they're like, you know, I'm going to change your life. And I was like, cool, that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And about 6 weeks into the program, we got into a massive problem because of a little bit of religion type of differences, but then also a massive difference of opinion about what anxiety is and how do you treat it. And it was a massive problem.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was like, I can't be a part of this. And she's like, well, you have a contract. And I mean, it was a really big problem. So how do you decide? Do you have a process, or what advice would you have for somebody who's looking for a coach and maybe they don't even know what a coach does? Or, you know, how do you get to know them within an hour or 2 hours or however long that you have?
This is what I would suggest. I would suggest find their freebie group, right? Most coaches will have a Facebook group or something online, or they'll give you access if they have like, if they have only like a paid group. You can ask them to give you access so you can start scrolling through it, even if it's just for 24 hours, to see if it's the type of thing that would help you. I would spend some time in their groups, spend some time, either if they have a blog or something, watch what they're updating. Look at people who have given testimonials. Are those the same type of people as you want to be? And I would just like, you know, you don't have to decide overnight. I mean, sometimes that's actually like, that's a tactic that people use, is like, you have to decide overnight because we're going to run out of time, right? That's actually the proven scarcity, using the scarcity thing. And sometimes it is, because sometimes a program's opening, but not necessarily. So I would just like, I would take your time and I would ask yourself, what is it that you're looking for? Right? Like, be really clear with yourself. What is it that you're looking for? Like, I'm actually myself, I'm looking for a business coach right now. And I'm very clear of what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking for someone who's like one-on-one, because I don't need another program. I've been through the programs, right? And I'm at a level where it's in between the two programs, where I know the systems are working, but I haven't reached 6 figures yet. So I'm like in that weird in between spot. So yeah, so like I'm looking for someone who's like one-on-one coaching. I'm looking for someone who can not lead me through a program, but be there as my like support, and who I can bounce ideas off of. I'm looking for someone who's a couple years ahead of me in the process, so they know. So I've got like my own criteria, and that's what I suggest you do, is look at like, what is your criteria? And know if you are somebody, if you're somebody, and I know INFJs, a lot of us are like self-directed learners. So maybe you're not the person who's going to be in that Facebook group where everyone's like, yeah, and it's all about the private Facebook group and the community. Like maybe you're somebody who is just like, you might just be someone who's good with like a downloadable program, right? You just download a course, not even a program, a course, and you do the lessons on your own. So know your own learning style, know what works for you. And I would say also, just get to know, like, just be cautious of anyone who's going to try and pressure you or guilt you. I remember being in a conversation once with a business coach who was like, oh, well, if you're not interested, then obviously you're not committed. Like, if you're not going to pay $10,000, then it just shows a lack of commitment to your business. And I was like, no, that's not how I sell. That's not how I want to enroll people. I don't want to give people guilt. I don't want to make them feel like afraid and join my program because they're afraid. I want people because they're motivated and they're the right people.
Right.
So yeah, so just watch out for those like high pressure tactics. Know that those are tactics that people use. Know that your brain is programmed to respond to those tactics. So just be like, take a moment. Don't give yourself 24 hours if you're not sure, especially if it's a big amount. Say, I need to think about it. Yeah,
for sure. And if they're really selling a $10,000 coaching program, they're probably going to pressure you into it, but they're still going to be happy to take your $10,000 24 hours later.
Yeah. And I would ask too, like, if you're working with a coach, you can say like, I remember I worked with one and I should have asked her, like at the beginning I was like, oh, I have a full-time job. Will this be too much? And she's like, oh no, it's fine. But I didn't ask her, like, do you have any testimonials from people who have had full-time jobs who've gone through this? Right. And in the end, I was like overwhelmed with too much information. So yeah. So just kind of know what's right for you.
Yeah. Another big thing is to ask them, like, especially if you have a full-time job, what hours do you have available for your coaching calls, or what hours are the programs? Because a lot of them are like at 10 o'clock in the morning. And if you have a full-time job, that doesn't work. And if part of the program is a live participation, you can't participate in any of it.
Yeah. So that's a good point.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about the programs that you offer, or the coaching that you offer.
Right. So right now I do one-on-one coaching, and then I have a new program coming up starting April 6th, 2020, and it's called the Runway. So it's all about the basics. So it's for people who have full-time jobs, who are mission-driven. So that means they want to make a difference in people's lives, and they want to start, or either have started but are kind of floundering in a service-based business. So coaching, consulting, healing, right? Those sorts of things. And it's 16 weeks. It takes you from, we start with looking at clarity of purpose, clarity with why you're qualified, overcoming imposter syndrome, clarity of what it is that you're doing, right? What is the one idea that you're going to focus on, right? And how to stay on focus with that one idea, because sometimes when we get scared, we get scattered, right? So we go through clarity, we go through time and energy management with a full-time job. Then we go through the business foundations. So messaging, what do you say to people so that you're drawing in the right people? What tactics can you use to grow your audience? How can you do kind of like marketing, and what is your offer? We go into pricing, money mindset, because it's an area that a lot of people get stuck. It's like, I feel icky about charging, and you have to charge. And then we wrap it up with momentum and strategy. So if you're looking at your side hustle as a way to exit your day job, creating an actual plan and a roadmap for how you're going to do that. What is the date? What level do you need to get up to feel confident enough to take the leap? And then it ends with putting people into accountability groups with each other. So you get 5 people, and I teach you how to be coaches for each other so that moving forward, you can help each other on an ongoing basis. It's a 16-week program, and it's online, Facebook group, and group coaching outside of business hours.
Which is really, really important.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the Runway program. It's small right now. I'm beta testing it. So I'm keeping it to, I have 10 spots left, really. So there'll be like 12 people max. Yeah. But otherwise, Facebook group called the Wayfinders Club. And I post content in there every day, and we're all there supporting each other as we build our side hustles and learn about business and kind of, you know, all the ups and downs and the roller coaster and supporting each other. So feel free to join the Wayfinders Club.
Awesome. And where else do we find you? Your website and your social media?
Yeah. So my website is junemorrow.com. And my social media, the best place to find me is actually on Facebook. So it's June Morrow Coach, or if you just do a search for the Wayfinders Club, that's probably the best way. That's where I am most of the time. So I have 2 freebies that you can download. So if you're at that stage where you're like, I don't know what I want to do, which was a great question we talked about earlier, I have a workbook, the How to Decide Your Next Direction workbook, which has 5 different exercises you can do to figure out what you want to do next and where you want to focus your energies. And then if you are starting a side hustle or you're doing a side hustle and you're feeling overwhelmed and drained of energy and you're like, I just want to quit my job. How come I can't quit my job? Why do I have to go to work today? I have a little guide called How to Survive a Job You Want to Leave When You Can't Afford to Quit. And it's got 12 tactics in there that'll help you balance your energy throughout the day, change your perspective, and look at how you can use your job to support your dream rather than thwart it. So I will, I guess, Sarah, I'll ask you to post the links.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
We'll
I'll send you
post
the
them in the
links.
show notes.
Cool.
All right, let's talk about some of the takeaways. Number 1, the first career you have doesn't have to be the only career you have. The average person is going to have 8 different careers in their life. Number 2, careers are different now, with online careers becoming more and more common. Number 3, your job doesn't have to be in a traditional field. There are many ways to make a living with something non-traditional. Number 4, you start to figure out what type of career you want to have by listing what do you want to do. Number 5, remember that you don't have to do one thing for your whole life. You can focus on one thing for a while and then do something else later. Number 6, prioritize the thing you love and outsource everything else. Number 7, building a business is not about having a big following on social media or on your blog. It's about connection. Number 8, you don't have to be on all of the social media platforms to start a business. Pick one that relates to your ideal audience the most and focus your efforts there. Number 9, your ideal customer is the person you were before you figured out the thing that changed your life. And number 10, you don't have to share anything on your blog or social media that makes you uncomfortable. You can build up to sharing the bigger things. All right, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. Please make sure that you subscribe wherever you listen or watch so that you don't ever miss an episode. And remember that you can watch all of the videos on YouTube at youtube.com/thequietonespodcast. And there are also additional episodes on youtube.com/INFJwoman. Also, please make sure that you leave a review or a comment wherever you listen. It helps other people to find us. And again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week.